Hey Thinksters, and welcome to this video about the Python list remove function. So in this video I want to show you everything you need to know to help master the essential remove method of Python lists. Okay, and so what is the definition? The definition of the remove method is it removes the first occurrence of an element from an existing list. So let's have an example. So we have a list, say, of 3 elements. The first element is a string value n, then we have maybe 2 integer elements and now another one Alice. And say another one Alice just for a purpose of showing it. And now we want to remove the first occurrence of the list object Alice in the list. Okay, and we can call on the list object itself. We call the function remove the value. So we don't call it's also called remove by value, not remove by index, for example. So there are other methods, the pop method, which can remove an element at a certain position in the list, but this remove method just removes by value. So it goes from the left to right over the list, finds the first occurrence of the element and just removes it from the list. So if you print the list now, you see there's still one Alice element. This would be actually a match for our remove string, but it's the second occurrence, so it only removes the first occurrence of the list. Okay, so what are the arguments? The arguments to the remove function is only one element, the element you want to remove, and there is not another argument. So this is everything. These are all possible arguments. You cannot add another optional argument to the list. The return value of the list is the value none. None, usually you have a return value of none if you modify an existing object, yeah, and you don't create a new object. And therefore, in this case, we simply modify our existing list object. We don't create a new list object with an element removed, but we remove it from an existing object. So therefore, there is no return value. The return value is none. And you can see it if you like print list remove, say the second now the remaining occurrence of Alice. We need to close it, and you see the return value of none of the remove method is none. Okay, so very simple concept, but there are some interesting questions. So there are other methods to remove some elements from a list. So now you have already seen how to remove an element by value. So if you know the value in the list we want to remove, then you can use the list remove method. But what if you only know the index you want to remove? Yeah, so you want to remove a certain index, say index I can equal 0, for example. So what if we want to remove the first element from the list? Yeah, the first element has index 0, so we can call the pop function with a defined index. Okay, and the pop function then also it removes the element and returns the element. And you can see now the first element of our list has been n, and now we have removed it, but not only removed it but also returned by the pop function, because now the element, this is really the return value of the pop function, is the removed element. And this is useful, for example, if you want to store it, like so you go over all elements in the list, and then you take, for example, always the last argument, the last element of the list. And you can take the last element by simply skipping the index argument. The default index argument is -1, which means that it removes the last element in the list per default. Okay, so and now you can see that we have stored in our element, we have stored the last element that still remained in the list. Okay, so this way you can remove elements by index with a pop function. So how can we remove all elements of a certain list? So say we have a list with 4 elements, we simply want to remove all elements from the list. We can do this by simply calling the clear method. The clear method then modifies the object itself. It removes all elements from the list. And similarly, if you have a list of 4 elements and we want to remove only, say, the elements, the second and the third element, for example, then we can use the del method. Del method takes it's like a reminiscence of previous Python versions, like Python 2 point something, and you can then simply call a slice here, the slice with the start index. Start index can be 1, 2, say 3, for example. This would then remove all elements between index 1 and 3, and index 1 is included, index 3 is excluded in the slice. This is called the slice, and which means that it basically removes the second and the third elements of the list. Okay, So if we print the list, you see it has removed those 2 elements. So these are basically all methods to remove some elements from a list. And yeah, so what if you want to like remove an element but only if it exists? Because the problem is if we go back to the remove function and we want to remove, say we have the list again of 1, 2, 3, 4, and we want to remove, we call list remove 5, for example, then you see there will be an error. Yeah, it will throw a value error because element 5 does not exist in the list. And so what if you, like, of course you could have a try catch block to catch the exception, but what if you don't want to do this? Basically you want to handle it proactively yourself. Then you could simply check, like, if say 5 in list, only then we call list remove. Something like this would be very simple to remove an element only if it exists. Okay, you can even have a one-liner like list remove. Say we have like a variable x. It can be like, it can have any value, and then you can check list remove x programmatically if x in list, else none. Else we don't want to do anything. Okay, so now value 99 does not exist in the list, so therefore this would throw an error if we would just call list remove x. But as we have now this one-liner expression, it's called the ternary operator in Python. So like an if-else statement in one line Python, then you can simply you can simply execute this without getting an error. Okay, that's it. Thank you for listening and see you in the next video. Bye.